And now the exploration of yoga. Good. So let us begin with a towel or a blanket, please. So I'm rolling this this blanket up, about like this. This is a pretty heavy blanket, so I folded it in quarters, so I have this rectangle shape, and then I've rolled it up. Depending, this is going to go in the pelvic area, sacral area, and the lumbar area. So if you have a sensitivity there, you could simply roll it about half this way, or you could use a towel that's a little softer. So we want to just introduce the compression in initially a gentle way, and then see how the body responds. Sometimes we go a little less compression, sometimes a little bit more. So we're going to move into this slowly, hopefully, and gently. So let's have your roll out. That's all we're going to need for this to start. Anything for the head will only be very thin and for comfort, not to elevate the head up. So no pillow-like thing behind the head. And then very simply, what I would like, and actually let me show you the second part. So stay with me to show you what we're going to do for the second part. Yeah, the second part, and maybe the third part too. But the second part, excuse me, the first part will be feet on the floor, elevate the hips up, place this blanket under your pelvic area, and this is going horizontally side to side, hip to hip, not up the length of the spine. And then just come down to the forearms, get the upper body down. And then when you relax the legs out, you may need a little adjustment. Yeah, so if you can see up here, this area is my lumbar. Down here towards sort of below the hip bones here is the pelvic area. That's what we want, yeah. And then what we're gonna do, we'll stay here for a while. After some time, we're gonna put the feet on the floor, and I'm gonna invite you to scoot down to place the buttocks on the floor. So up here, the buttocks are clearly off the floor. And then we'll scoot down and scoot down and scoot down until the buttocks are on the floor. And this is what I was saying, this may be a bit severe, so you would unroll the blanket a bit. So it's just simply the blanket in the lumbar curve. We'll stay here for some time. Oh God, I can just slide around. Then we'll put the feet on the floor, keeping the buttocks on the floor, and we'll bring the knees to the right, twist, bring the knees to the left, twist. And this can be intense, coming into this this twist with this amount of compression in the lumbar area. So when you get there, always feel free to readjust, soften the compression, the intensity, and really make it work for your body. So let's do that now. Let's bring your pelvis up on this roll and let your body, then once your upper body feels like it's landed, then you can, again, if you want something for your head, you can soften your head a bit. And then we'll let the legs relax out. So not only pelvis, but you may feel a pull over the top of the hips. And just as a reminder that really the only thing that I'm really attempting to do here is to encourage you to hold a container for yourself. So the beautiful thing, the interesting thing, what makes this practice so incredibly simple, but at the same time profound, is it's not really based on instruction. It's not based on taking in more information, at least through the intellect. it's a way for you to hold yourself in order to explore whatever it is that is arising. So really more emphasis is put on the body, is put on the breath, is put on the feelings, and less emphasis is put on the way that your mind is conditioned to respond to your body, but also to things that I say. So really, take that to heart and allow everything, the days that have been going by, the information you might have been taking in, any preoccupations or the way that your mind might be a little concerned, and everything that I'm saying, and just relax back from all that. So really the way that we most effectively hold this container for this level of exploration is by just relaxing and just softening into the body, feeling the movement of the body, the breath, and then being able to just observe what is arising and what is subsiding. And then as you're settling in, I would just like to provide just a little background imagery. And again, no need to analyze this or listen as instruction. Part of what we're exploring is that more and more knowledge is not necessarily transformation. Sometimes we can be very sensitive to an insight, but that's often a combination of the heart, the intuition, and the mind itself. But information itself is information. We collect it. Lovely to have. Transformation is what we're exploring in our bones and our cells and our heartbeat. So I would just like to allow this background imagery just to wash over and through you. And if it resonates with your body, yes, but nothing to hold on to. The body is supple and healthy. The mind is open and still. The heart is peaceful and loving. Awareness is infinite and eternal. The body is supple and healthy. The mind is open and still. The heart is peaceful and loving. The awareness is infinite and eternal. Begin to deepen the breath just very gently and as slow as you can. And I would like you to imagine that this sacral, pelvic, and to some extent, obviously, the lumbar area that you're addressing here, I would just like you to imagine that this is a balloon, and very, very slowly start to fill up that balloon of the sacral pelvic area on the inhale. So you're softening, breathing, inflating the balloon, and then on the exhalation, allow the balloon to just deflate. Don't force or push. Just feel this opening a bit, this balloon inflating on the inhale, and all the intricacies of sensation that evokes. And the same thing on the exhale, the intricacies of sensation that the exhalation evokes as you empty the balloon. And just do this for, let's say, 2 or 3 cycles. Slow and long breaths. So you don't want that balloon to get too tight. You want it to just kind of push in a little bit, explore, lean in. And then if you're ready, we're going to put the feet on the floor. This is for the safety of this whole lower area. And just start to wiggle your way down so we come off of the pelvis and it slips into the lower back. The buttocks now wants to be firmly on the floor. Again, for me at least, this was much more intense, probably for you as well. If not, you're good. But if you need to unroll that roll a little bit, that would be good. If you're good, just stay there. So we don't want to feel like we're, toughing it out or we can do this. We don't want to make any decisions based on the ego, what we should or think we should be doing. We don't want to make any decisions on, if I go in this position and stay for a while, I might or probably will get hurt. We want to make every decision about depth and discomfort based on how your body is responding in a personal, intimate balance between compression, tension, discomfort, pain, and relaxation, safety, and lack of injury. So we've wiggled down a bit, place the roll under the lower back, side to side. And then if you feel safe, let the legs relax out. And then we've traveled up the spine a bit, you might say. And maintaining also the awareness that this muscular fascial envelope, these connective tissue compartments that are holding the muscle, are in their own little dance. So things have great probability to change over time. So if you find yourself sinking in and relaxing more and just being absorbed into the breath in the body, this is lovely. If you feel a struggle start to emerge or just a bit of unsafety, please listen to that. So we're not being asked to put the body in a position and then just stay there till it's over. You always have the freedom to make any adjustment. Any adjustment is valid. And then you go back into it and you start to distinguish, am I wiggling and fidgeting with the discomfort while I'm in the pose, or do I need to make a valid adjustment? And again, this is personal and unique to you. So I would just like to weave this, this short reading into the simplicity of this practice. When we really start to feel the body as a visceral sensory experience, when we really start to connect with our breathing, and we give the thinking process a little bit more freedom and not have to get entangled with every thought, this practice becomes just indescribably simple. And so I'd just like to, this is from Wei Wu Wei, I'd just like to weave this simplicity of this small sutra into the simplicity of our yoga practice. It's called biting through. Every breath, each movement, all activity is completely, inseparably interwoven with enlightenment. Complete realization is bound into every petty difficulty and wholly liberated and illuminated through quiet awareness of that fact. Every breath, each movement, all activity is completely, inseparably interwoven with enlightenment. Complete realization is bound into every petty difficulty and wholly liberated and illuminated through quiet awareness of that fact. So I'd like you to just be careful with this next part. It can have a degree of intensity because we are compressing the lumbar area, and then we're going to add a twist into that. So it's intentional, but please be careful. You may need to put something under the legs as they go to the side. So if you would like to share with this, then bend the knees and put the feet flat on the floor, both of them. Yes, feet on the floor. And then very slowly, we'll let the both legs go over to the right side. Yeah, and then you may want to, sometimes you just pull that foot, the top foot a little out, just adjust the feet if you need to. And then you'll see what I'm talking about, the compression of the roll into the lumbar and now adding a twist to that. So if this is too much, you can bring the legs up, place something under that right leg, one of the bolsters or blankets or another towel, and again, just find just the right spot. Let's imagine that what this really is a full body meditation. And the full body meditation, when we really begin to become absorbed into the body, this unfolds into a state of stillness. And the same thing with stillness. when we really just very naturally and organically become still, this then unfolds into full body meditation. And so let's bring those knees up. And I'm going to recommend that you straighten the legs out initially, just to let that right side come back to some equilibrium. But if you need to, another thing that you could do is in this little interim here, we won't be here long, but take as much time as you would like. We can just bring the pelvis back up onto the bolster. So if you're feeling like this lumbar area needs a little bit of attention, rest, then just bring the hips back up. It just takes a moment here, and then you can kind of let it all soften and release, because we're going to go do the other side at some point of that that lovely elevated lumbar twist. And of course, any movement that you have, it's always an interplay. Just like I was saying, the muscles and the connective tissue envelope are always in this dynamic dance. The same thing with being in movement, passive movement even, and stillness. So the body is in this lovely, lovely dance between these two, and how it affects our energy and so many things. Good. So if you're up on the pelvis, you might want to bring that the buttocks back down to the floor. If your legs are straight, let's bend the legs and put both feet flat on the floor, and then let's go to the other side. So we're just very simply just let both knees, both legs, everything just go over to the left. Again, if you want to place something under this left leg, if you want to adjust that top foot, open the hips up a little bit, that would be good, and your choice. And if you've not been able to, or you've not been able to sort of shift your momentum into really exploring the tremendous value and benefit of stillness, I've been thinking that it's a lovely opportunity when we're doing this remotely, because typically when we're in a class, we're a little shy sometimes to move, or for some reason you think I'm looking at you and it'll go on your record or something. But there's so many more opportunities now to, go to a birthday party or whatever it is. I don't mean to pick on her, but but you know what I'm saying, the cup of tea or whatever. Not that if you need to do something, you shouldn't do it. But what I'm getting at is the genuine exploration of stillness, which is the same as I do not know, which is the same as resting in this dynamic moment that is unfolding, is incredibly worthy to explore. The benefits are uh, are many. So when you find urges, when you find these urges, these habits, these momentums to do this or that, this is just simply disturbing the calmness, the clarity of stillness. My suggestion is that it's very valuable to explore, especially when we're dealing with a rather uncertain environment. The capacity just to sit quietly and listen and be still, extremely valuable. Good. So let's bring those legs back up. And while you have the feet on the floor, when you brought the legs back up, let's do that again. Let's come out of this lower back and just elevate yourself back up onto the pelvis with this roll. And I just want to use this really to release out of here. So move at your own pace, but let's take some time. So you may want to have the knees go back and forth gently. You may want to bring the knees up to the chest. You may want to have the feet on the floor, just elevate the pelvis up and down a little bit. So again, just that dance of weaving the passive motion into this compressive stillness that we've been holding. And then when you're ready, you can remove that bolstering and let us take a rest now. So just make yourself comfortable and we'll just let that dissipate as much as possible. I'd like to go back to a slower breathing now, sort of a more intentional breath, slower, a little bit deeper. I'd like to explore the three chambers of the lungs, because typically, we're just breathing off the very top part of the chest here, above the sternum, and this does not allow us to use the total volume of the lungs. So the more we can use the total volume of the lungs, the benefits just sprout out of that. So what I'm suggesting is to first inhale into your belly area. So very slowly and inhale, let the belly press up and just feel this area. One of the chambers of the lungs, right down low in the organs, and then just release it naturally. And then the next breath, breathe right into the area of the sternum. So that upper solar plexus area, right where the ribs come together at the sternum, breathe right into there. Nice slow inhale. And let the exhale just flow out. And then the next breath to the top of the chest. Yeah, this is where most of us breathe from. And as you can see, this is not accessing these three chambers, the total volume of the lungs. And just keep doing that. Don't worry about my pacing. I'll just remind you to breathe into the belly area. If you'd like to use the imagery of that balloon softening on the inhale and inflating, feel free. And then we inhale into the sternum area, that upper solar plexus. And then breathe into the top of the chest. And then just go on your own pace And just notice that the intention to keep this breath going will then at some point be almost unconsciously interrupted by the thought process. And that thought process will come in, disturb it, and take you somewhere. This is a fundamental pattern that we want to observe. It's very natural for it to happen, happens sometimes quicker than other times, but this is one of the foundations of cultivating stillness. So your intention is to breathe into your lower belly, breathe into your sternum, breathe into your top of the chest, and then repeat that pattern. So go ahead and do that, and then just watch when the mind hijacks you to wherever it hijacks you to. Just try to make each breath a little longer and a little slower. And often by lengthening and slowing, you can start to get a little insight into what I mean about the total volume of the lungs, that there's so much space in there. The lungs are actually flexible. So we're opening, we're exploring, we're expanding, we're releasing. Good. Okay, so let's come on up then, please. So yeah, maybe some bolstering might be good for this. So I'm just always I'm switching off between the bolsters and the blankets and pillows and towels because I know not everyone has the bolsters, but I do have a lifetime goal to have everyone on the planet have a set of bolsters and be doing yin yoga. So let's begin by, let's keep the right leg out. So we're just going to extend the right leg in front of you, right out of the hip, nice and relaxed. No need to tighten it or tense it in any way. And then let's take that left leg and bring it up and over. And we're going to take that left foot and gently just pull it back towards the right hip. So you see my knees are not completely, or maybe you don't see, but you can hear. Don't need to align the knees necessarily. This will depend on your internal, external rotation of the hip. So don't worry about it. We're just crossing the left leg over the right leg and then encouraging this left foot back a little bit. So this allows us to come forward. And then if you're using the bolstering, I'm using this nice set of pillow towel, blanket towel. Just put that on the right side. We have the right leg out, left leg up and over. And what I'm going to suggest, especially after that last twist, is to come forward here in a nice gentle forward bend. Let the lower back relax and soften. And then as you're coming forward, and this feels okay, you can either stay here. So this is a lovely place to be. If the chest is being inhibited by the left leg, you can just come a little bit over to the right. But keep the curve in the spine, keep the weight of the head down. And then you have this bolstering on the right side to relax the forearms or the hands, or even if the head comes down, but just a little bit of twist, a little bit of softening. Let these little points of density really guide you. Just gently still the mind, don't force it, and join it to the breath. So sometimes we think it's just the body and the breath in this lovely little dance, but also the mind. The mind is in no way separate from anything that we're experiencing. So as the mind begins to still, or you allow it to still, or encourage the mind to still, just simply join it to the breath and sink into this experience of your somatic intelligence, not just the body as inert and dense, but just amazingly intelligent and alive. Of course, you could always relax the breath and join it to the stillness of the mind. Just a lovely convenience, this thing we call language, because the reality is, uh, if we really look, if we really contemplate, we really inquire, can we find any separation, any boundary at all between this thing I'm calling mind and breath and body? You're welcome to try. So if you are off to the right a bit, just bring your upper body so the spine is nice and straight. We don't want to come up out of this out of a twist necessarily. So now the upper body, the shoulders are more hovering over this right leg that's extended. Yeah, good. And then let's come on up, just nice and slow. Just let the spine naturally stack as we come up. And we're just going to make one little switch and we're going to go back down. So let's take this left leg that's on top right now, extend it out. And then we'll take the right leg that was extended and we're just going to bend it in. So the sole of the right foot is going to be up against either the left calf, the left knee. If you like to bring it into the upper inner thigh of the left leg, that's fine. Just find a place that your right side can relax. And then you can take that bolstering and put it anywhere you need to. My suggestion here is to first engage, or at least give the upper spine an opportunity to come forward. So you may encounter discomfort, restriction, density in this upper spine. Perfectly fine just to stay here for as long as you need to. And then you can use the support of the bolsters and then let the forward bend just unfold from the cervical spine down to the sacrum. So it's a nice, relaxing, intuitive forward bend that is not concerned with depth or aesthetic, but again, this direct, current, raw experience moment to moment. I mean, one of the things that you may notice, about this approach and the way that I'm guiding you is very rarely do I say, and if I say it, I don't emphasize it, that the particular shape of the body is meant to evoke a particular area, or we want to experience this outcome by the shape of the asana. What's more accurate is that you're listening to how the body feels. Yeah? So on a spectrum of discomfort, 0 being nothing, 10 being you may actually combust, it's so somewhere in between, and acknowledging, and this is important, to acknowledge that the discomfort, the pain, is really what's guiding you. So how to feel into that, how to feel away from that, how to play with that. So there's no wrong way to do this. Please don't succumb that you're doing it incorrectly. Once you start to feel something, shift the emphasis from the shape of the body, shift the emphasis from all of my chatter, and start to see that your body's asking you to pay attention to something based on the intensity of this sensation. It's a beautiful, it's simple, and it's profound. And we can do this with anything, any experience. We can do this with emotional anxiety, mental confusion, digestive issues, any sensations that we're receiving, they enter into the body to give us guidance. We're just simply living in a miraculous, watery, gelatinous, fossil bag of incredible intelligence. And what's so interesting, I think another kind of trail of this inquiry is, just being still and contemplating the nature of these sensations for just a few minutes. This should be easy, but obviously it's not. And so why is it not? And this is what we contemplate. And this is why the encouragement is to just go as slow as you can. Just slow everything down. Just listen with a delicacy, as if you have a magnifying glass and you're just going into the inner delicate part of a flower bud, and you want to see one little part of it and explore it. With no outcome in mind, with no agenda, but just to explore. Why is it that I cannot sit quietly and contemplate and have it be the most delicious thing in the world? So let us come on up, please, nice and slow. And I'm going to recommend that we lie down and take a bit of a rest. So if you would like to, sometimes it's nice just to lie completely flat, but I often, especially after the combination we've done before we do the other side of this, is to just put your legs up. This in itself can provide a lovely relaxation for the hips, because the femurs get elevated out of the hip socket. So the amount of elevation is unique to you. You know, some people love, you know, even we put the legs up the wall, or make a little higher edifice there of the bolsters or the blankets. But it's just nice sometimes to just let the whole pelvic hip area relax. So you're invited to do that while we rest before we do the other side. Let's just take a moment as we're resting and just really appreciate this, all of this splendor and beauty and abundance that we get to live in, that we have this opportunity that is, in my opinion, just a tremendous privilege. We have the opportunity to put some time aside to feel safe and to be guided into our body in a therapeutic and a yogic and a spiritual way to explore in an environment where it's just amazingly beautiful and we're surrounded with amazing abundance. And we know there's a part of us that our hearts are vibrating with, you know, many, many others that don't have the same opportunity. And so it's such a privilege. It's such a splendor and a beauty to feel this and to make sure that we stay as close to gratitude and appreciation as we can. This is part of the practice. The part of the practice is honoring this physical body as this tremendous gift. And we're not exploring it because we need to improve it or make it better or wish it wasn't. We're exploring the mystery of it. The fact that you are breathing is a mystery. The fact that your heart is pulsating is a mystery. You know, we can look through, you know, stacks and stacks of textbooks, but ultimately information is not transformation. Information is the outer layer. We're invited in yoga to go as deeply inside and awaken this intuition and awaken this intelligence. And we have the opportunity to do that. It's a luxury. So let's just take the rest of this time in our Shavasana here and just rest in the splendor and the beauty and the abundance that we all share. Good, so let's come on up, and I'm going to invite us to do the other side of this. And again, you may want to have this collection, I'm calling it an edifice of pillow, towel, blanket, towel, but I'm going to just use my big bolster over here because I want to maintain my my worthy goal of having everyone to have one. So this time we're going to let the left leg extend out. Yep, just a reversal. We'll take the right leg and bring it over the left leg. Draw that right foot a bit back towards the hips. Don't force the knees like I'm doing here. Just let them relax. And if you found that this left foot wants to tense up like this and the quadricep wants to contract, let it relax. You may even need to move it off to the left a little bit to make some room in the hip. Yeah, that's much better. And then you're bolstering will be on your left side to support the twist if you so choose. And then we'll let the body just come forward first, yeah? So we want to do this just to see where we are in terms of range of motion, relaxation, response to compression. Then when you've reached that, you may decide to stay here. This is interesting. Or you may decide to just scoop over to the left a little bit, find some support on your bolster, and then relax into it here. And, you know, talking about when I opened the class with that, you know, lovely reading about, you know, the scriptures, this whole framework that I just mentioned, that information is not transformation, this actually comes from the Vedas. And there's a lovely quote that is lovely, and it's quite well known. This is something I often, you know, close the practice with, but I do think it's very worthy of exploring. I think that this is where we really begin our exploration. So if we want to take in more information, we want to gather more knowledge, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if we can take this quote to heart, if we can start to explore what does this really mean, we're going to open up space, and this is our container for exploration, as opposed to thinking we need to gather enough information to then discover the nature of ourself. So the quote is simply, "I do not know who or what I am. I wander about, concealed and wrapped in thought." And if on any level you are trying to figure that quote out, that's exactly what the quote is referring to. That is the wrapping of thought that we are concealed in. So better to just let it merge into your essence. Better to just trust that that as we let the mind rest into the heart, the inside of the heart will reveal whatever it is we need to explore. So if you are over to the left in this lovely little sitting twist, let's start to bring the body back again to a straight spine, and just hover here for a moment. Let that twist sort of come back to neutral if you can. And then we'll come up from here. We'll just roll up nice and easy. And let's take that right leg that was scooped over the left leg and straighten it out. And then we'll leave that right leg now straightened out, and we'll bring the left leg, and same thing. Just find an appropriate place where you put the sole of the left foot somewhere along that, that right leg. And again, don't tighten it from the hip or the quad. Really let it relax so the hips are nice and relaxed. Sometimes I just like to shake it out a little bit and make sure I am not applying tension to tension, but I'm applying tension to as open a space in my joints as I can. And then again, just soften. Again, the reminder is to let the weight of the head initiate with the cervical spine, and then let it unfold as deeply as it's going to go. And even though the breath may be somewhat restricted by this compression into the frontal space, you're always invited to explore the volume of your lungs. And sometimes easing a little lower in the belly when it's compressed, it can be very interesting. So we don't have to restrict conscious breathing to just when we're in an open sort of thoracic spine expansion. You're invited to do this anytime. So we first notice, well, where is the breath when I become conscious of it? Is it restricted in the top of the chest? Am I restricting my breath to a very limited volume of lung capacity? And can I start to calm it and relax it and just open it a bit, just expand it a bit, just feel it a bit? So it's always it's an ongoing exploration. So let's come on up from here, please. And again, let's take a little bit longer rest this time since we're not in between. So just lie down and relax and we'll regroup here for a bit. So placing the breathing into the lower belly, into the sternum, into the top part of the chest. This is what we might call breathing locally. Yes, you're aligning your visualization with the breath, and you're allowing it to then give you this experience of these areas of the lung chambers. Absolutely lovely to do. We also could visualize more globally. So what I would invite you to do is, just as you're relaxing and you're continuing to move inward, is to start to breathe into all of your cells, however you visualize them. I hear there's quite a few of them. Every time I pick up a different book, it's 10 billion or 25 billion or 100 billion. So I'm not advising you to count them because there's really a lot of them I hear, but just breathe into them. So a slow, creative visualizing of just breathing into all of your cells. And you could also imagine that you are your cells because you are your cells. And so you have this perspective then of being in the cells themselves and just looking up at the envelope of the skin and just letting the breath saturate and slowly permeate each and every cell of your body. The cells are breathing, the tissues are breathing, your organs are breathing. So let's come on up, please. So I'm going to do, I just want to show you some of this first because it'd be a little tricky to totally translate it. So just stick with it. I will show it and I will talk about it as carefully as I can. We're going to use, I'm going to show this with the bolster, but certainly you can use your compatible prop. So maybe this is a little high, but you have the general idea of the size of the bolster. So what I'm going to recommend, and this might not be for everyone, if it's not, then just eliminate the bending of the knee part of it if you just feel unsafe or injurious. And it's interesting because a lot of the feedback I've been getting and the questions have been about the knee. Yeah, so I understand, a very delicate, tender place, very ligamented, a lot going on there. So just be careful with it. You want to ease into it a little bit, be safe with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this a large bolster and put it, again, horizontal, hip to hip, or your pillows. So we want to bring it in as close as possible so we're not getting too much. Well, you know, more mid-back. Yeah, I think maybe more mid-back. Pull it in as close as possible. You be the judge of that. Yeah, we already did the lumbar low. So I would say maybe bring this up more to the mid-back, as long as the shoulders are not going to be on it. And then just as you're sitting there, let the left leg extend out. Yeah, you can hear that. And then we're going to take the right knee and bend it in. Yeah, so it's just bending in. So really now the left knee and the right knee are side by side, pretty much, just a little bit open. And the thing I forgot to say is have something for your head. And let me show this as well so you can see me here. So I'm taking now a blanket and folding it up for my head. So from here, left leg extended, right leg bent back. We call this lower body position, the saddle position. We're going to come over this bolstering, which I've modified. Instead of low back, bring it up a little bit more. Yeah. And as you maybe can see or not, my knee is coming up a bit. This is because my quadricep is that tight. So over time, it will soften down. And then when you come down, oh good, I could either, if it's compatible with my neck, to let my head just dangle all the way back, yeah? If you're not good with that, that's what the blanket is for. So you can bring the head up as much as possible, as much as you need to, really. Be safe with that. So if indeed this bending the knee back is not for you, just don't do it and come into the backward bend. So you have either blankets and pillows in the mid-back or this cross bolster. Then what we're going to do, let me just add this part. If you do have your knee bent back, I'm suggesting the right one. Once we let it out, we release it. We're going to roll over to the right. So we've got the ribs on the bolster. This is lovely. And then we'll bring the left arm up and over and just let it extend. Same thing with the head. Here, if you're able to let the head extend, this is really nice because we're laterally flexing the spine, and this will go into the upper spine as well. If it doesn't feel unsafe, put a blanket under it, and then we'll just extend this out. Yeah, and we're pretty much parallel. I've got the bolster or blankets in my right rib cage. Left arm is extending out. This is how we'll come out of it. Then we'll just come off of the bolster completely and set up for the other side. Okay, wow, that was a lot. So left leg out, or both legs out, or right leg gently bent back. Start to put the big bolster, your blankets, your pillows in your mid back. Yeah, and then come over. Yeah, see already, interesting, already that knee is down a little bit more because just being in there for that, minute or so started to release my my quadriceps, and then let the head drop back. Right now, let's just put the arms to the side. So let the arms be very relaxed so we can really settle into this for a while. And then I'd like to bring the arms up over the head, but that's still to come. Good. Oh. And again, please continue to discern the difference between making an adjustment that you feel is necessary and safe, and just struggling and feeling unsafe. So we're only using the anatomical shape of the body to evoke something. If you're evoking sensation, it's absolutely fine. This is where you explore. And over time, as you become more somatically intelligent, the body will actually guide you into exactly what it needs, because it's using this brilliant design of pain to guide you. Too much pain, we don't go there. Not enough pain, nothing happens. We want a therapeutic sense of compression, feels healthy and therapeutic, and release. The body responds and goes into relaxation, healing mode. This is the fundamental vibration of life. And so if you do feel like you've softened a bit and you've relaxed a bit, if you'd like to just bring the arms up over the head, you can do this intuitively. So this is very nice in this position, obviously, because you'll feel this thoracic expansion, shoulders, just many things. So based on how your shoulders feel, you could stretch way up over the head. You could just bring the arms slightly off the floor. So just kind of play with this. And of course, with this thoracic expansion, this is lovely to you take a little bit of time and go back to this idea of the volume of the lungs and how you can breathe the lower belly. You can breathe into the sternum area, the upper solar plexus, and you can breathe into the top of the chest. And just all of this was just with just a profound sense of curiosity. And if you are by any chance, still counting how many cells there are in your body, I think it would be much more fruitful to just count sheep at this point. But not necessary to hold the arms there. So I'm suggesting to just let your body guide you. So this is for you to use the weight and the length of the arms to feel in a bit, to explore, but then certainly to rest them as well. So for those of you that do have that right knee bent back, let's start to, well, just listen very carefully here, because I said one thing when I was demonstrating it, but I meant another thing. So sorry about that. So if you're having your right knee bent back, we don't want to go to the right. Start to open it up and roll to the left. Yeah, that would be the way to go. Yeah, because that'll help the release. And then roll over onto the left ribs. Rolling over onto the left ribs. And then let that right arm extend up over the head. And then we'll keep the blanket under the head if you need to. Or again, if you're feeling safe, you can let the neck roll down. I should show it this way. I got all my old nemesis, left and right. Yeah, so with that right leg, we rolled over to the left. And then we're on those left ribs. The right arm is now up and over. Yes. Something for the head or not. We won't be here so long, so just explore. You can stretch this right arm. You can let it relax. The temptation will be the body will want to roll back on the back line or come forward on the top of the chest. We're trying to be on the ribs themselves here. The body's relatively straight, so we can just feel this lateral flexion. And if you're able to let the head come down, this is an extension of that lateral flexion, so it's quite lovely. But just make it your own, just kind of play with it. And then when you're ready, you can bring the knees up a little bit, and we'll just keep rolling off. So just keep rolling to the left here. Come on off. Push the bolster away and just curl up here a bit. We're going to do the other side, but just curl up. And yeah, sometimes I actually do believe that, left and right are in league with up and down, and they've conspired with gravity somehow. So I don't really understand it, but nor do I want to understand it really. I'm still more interested in how many cells there are in the body than left and right and up and down. But please do not let me digress. Yeah, so let's come on up. I think we can do the other side now. So the other side then now would, just reversing it, same thing applies. This time we're going to let that right leg extend out. We'll bend the left leg back, or not, depending on how you're feeling there. And you can always, feel free to, do with the template as you will, especially since you don't have me hovering over you. So if you just want to try bending this knee a bit, and then just spending a little time, possibly either just like this, if this works, just maybe come to the forearms and be like, wow, that's interesting. My knee is trying to get my attention. Something's happening. It doesn't have to be ignored. It doesn't have to be sacrificed just to go into the full pose. You could just bend that back, explore it a little bit, wow, and then open it up and go into the backward bend. So please feel free to really use the superficial geometry of the pose to explore. So if you are bending it back, though, again, we'll keep the bolster somewhere a little above the tightness of the lumbar, but below the shoulders. We'll come on back, something for your head if you need it. And let's start with the arms relaxed so we don't initially need to. I'd rather you settle into the back line first and the knee if that's bent back. And so part of the balancing when we're relaxing from the need to hold our conceptual information is cultivating this just extraordinarily sensitive insight. And one of the ways that we start to allow this insight to have a voice is in our emotional bodies as well as our physical and our intellectual, and to begin to make this discernment. And this is why I'm calling it extraordinarily sensitive, this insight, because on some level, this somatic emotions are very different from sort of a disembodied ego emotion. Ego emotions can be very limited and with a lot of conditioned mental overlay. You know what I mean? Just these emotions that are connected to this and connected to that, and this triggers that, and we somatic emotions are much more open-ended, and they have no boundaries or limits because we haven't overlaid them, we haven't superimposed a condition on them. We haven't superimposed our pattern on it. We haven't reacted to them so quickly. So we're working somatically. We're working with the fibers and the fabric and the meshing and the intelligence of our soma, of our inner world. So when we start to edge into these somatic emotions, yes, we want to just give them as much breath and freedom and openness as possible. And then if they need or would like to express some way, we give them that freedom as well. And I'm not even really talking good or bad. This is beyond that, because the ego emotions are part of often how we navigate. But if we don't have the wherewithal and the consciousness to explore this, we can get rather stuck and we can stay rather reactive. So a yoga posture that we hold for this amount of time is, again, meant to cultivate this sensitive insight and start to discern and just tease open a conditioned ego emotion from a somatic emotion, because at some level, they're very different. And it just gives us more of ourselves in a way. I'm not so sure about that. That's a whole nother, ourselves is a whole nother story. So let's see if I can remember which side we're going to roll out of on this. I think we have I think I can remember. We have the left knee bent back, I'm hoping. Yes, we do. Or at least I do. And I hope you, all that rambling, I didn't tell you to put your arms back, but I hope you took the opportunity to stretch your arms back. And then if you do have that left knee bent back, what I'm suggesting is to release it, rolling to the right. If you have both legs straight, start to roll to the right without, you don't need to obviously undo that leg. And then we'll come on the right ribs. Then the invitation is to kind of stay on the rib cage, not let the body go too forward or too back, and let the left arm just scoop out, up and over. Be careful with the upper spine. It's delicate. And just kind of relax into this. Good. And then you can just roll off of it, relax that left arm, just roll off of this. And let's come into yet another rest. So make yourself comfortable, please. in another way to, hold this exploration for yourself, and this is again where, we're appreciating what sensitive beings we are, is just to notice when something is evoked emotionally, maybe something you're thinking, maybe something I've said, maybe something coming from your body. If the tendency is immediately, and it's often imperceptible, is to judge it or project it or label it or suppress it or do anything with it, this would be what I'm calling an ego emotion. If you're able to just feel it and let it be effervescent and let it be expansive and open-ended and just feel it without having to justify it, then this is more in the realm of a somatic emotion. And we can just then let the body vibrate with it. We're not giving the intellect the dominance to tell us what it is. We're not allowing our past conditioning to react to it, so we can't honestly and deeply feel it. And this is a study. Obviously, I'm painting a very broad stroke here, but we're working with the body. We're cultivating somatic intelligence, somatic memory, biological memory. So we have the opportunity to explore. The language is not so relevant as long as we kind of feel that level of the body being able to creatively express itself in this way, and then the relationship of the way that the mind then will interact and interweave with it. So you can just please stay lying on the floor and just listen more or less. If you want to look up, certainly you can look up. I'm not going to do this as a full session with this, but I would just like to sort of explore it a little bit. It's actually challenging to do it even when we're in person, because this is a very kind of in-between delicate thing to do. But if you get it just right, it can be quite lovely. So to do it, obviously I'm leaning up to talk to you, but you'll be lying flat on your back to do this. And then what we would do then is we would bring the soles of the feet together and pull the heels way as close as you can up into your groin. Yeah, so both knees are flared out. And right now we're feeling the full weight of both legs pulling into the hips. So that would be the first step. The second step would be then to just let the heels move away from the groin about 2 inches. That's all, just about 2 inches, yeah? And now do it again about 2 inches more. So we've come out about 4 inches, maybe 6 inches, yeah? So we've released some of that tension. Then what we're gonna do is, this is the full weight of the legs drawing you to the floor. We wanna keep the soles of the feet together and bring those knees up about 2 inches. And then maybe another 2 inches. So where we are is we're in between, not having the full weight of the legs drawing you to the floor and not bringing the legs up so the feet go flat on the floor. So nothing will happen then. We're in between. And then you're not attempting to move them at all. You're just holding that right there, not all the way down, not all the way up, just somewhere in between. And then make sure your upper body is relaxed down and just hold that in between. And if the legs start to shake a little bit, that's perfectly okay, but don't make them shake. Don't stop them from vibrating in the hips, and don't make them vibrate. And the tendency will be they're going to want to relax back down with the full weight. We don't want this. This will just stress into the hip flexors. We want to be in between here. Yeah, so somewhere in between, soles of the feet stay together. They don't separate. That'll be the knees too high. And just hover there. And just explore for a bit. That's about all I can tell you right now. Certainly don't try to make sense of this. Don't feel like you're doing it wrong. We're just trying to hold those legs in between, somewhere between the knees straight up and the full weight drawing you to the floor. And then the hips, the thighs may start to quiver a bit. That's what we want, but we're not trying to make them quiver. So if they start to quiver, it can be uncertain sometimes. Am I doing this or am I not doing this? Please don't worry about that. Typically, we would do this for a much more extended time and they would fatigue and then you would know. But we're just giving the hips this little, just this little bit of release, really, what it is. If it starts to feel fatigued or you're not sure if you can do it, just stay with it. Just breathe and relax. Soles of the feet together, legs up about midway between the floor and the ceiling, but that's sort of general to your hips. Whatever the lower back wants to do, if it wants to arch up a bit, let it. No need to press it down, force it. And again, the tendency out of fatigue, they're going to want to go back down to the floor. Try to avoid that if you can. Just keep them up a couple of inches right in between. Let your breath keep relaxing. Good. So now just relax the legs just straight out. And just be with this. Try not to judge it or figure it out. Just feel it. And if you want to explore this on your own, it can be a very powerful release. 10 minutes to 20 minutes is really a good time to do it, because the more the hip flexors fatigue, the more the whole area will start to vibrate, and that's what we want. It's a vibratory opening. And then from there, let's come on up. So you can just roll to your side and come on up. And then let's apply some compression where we just were. So we're just going to simply bring the soles of the feet together. This would be our butterfly pose. And again, now we don't need to bring the heels way in. Just let the hips relax as much as possible. Use whatever support that you need to make sure there's not too much upper body weight. Make sure you're relaxing the upper spine first and foremost. Let it ripple down through the spine. Find a depth here that is just appropriate for you, and we'll just spend some time. lost our plan to that bag now. So if we do wander through the limbs of yoga, we come to a category called niyamas, which are meant for us to do inner explorations. The first three are purity or clarity, contentment, and austerity. So the contentment exploration is a very interesting one. And I would suggest that the times right now are very ripe because its roots, the beginning of this exploration of contentment is boredom. So, theoretically, who among us wouldn't want to be content? But to go to the roots of boredom, which really are coming from a sense of anxiety, a sense of, well, there's nothing to do, but I want to do something. So in a way, it's the seed to realizing contentment. Contentment is when we're able to just sit quietly, just have nothing to do and celebrate that and embrace that. To simply be content with the way things are, to not have to have things, environments, situations, relationships a certain way in order to feel a certain way. Just simply be content with what is. So what I'm suggesting is that when this energy, this anxiety of boredom starts to arise, we have the tools, we have the yoga poses, we have the way to slow down, we have the way to sit with ourselves, to explore the anxiety, the trembling of boredom, and how do we transform that into contentment. And it sounds, like I said, theoretically, it sounds like something we would all want, but to simply be content with what is can be tremendously challenging. It's an opening to a deeper realization, because we're able to just hold this space for ourselves and just let life unfold as it will. It doesn't need to make us unhappy or afraid. It doesn't need to make us joyful and celebratory. We're celebrating, we're joyful simply because we exist. This is contentment. And so through these niyamas, we start with the clarity. So we want to have clarity about this discernment, energetically, boredom, contentment, boredom. And then austerity, purity, clarity, contentment, austerity is just able to pare down our environment, our lives, our distractions, our clutter, so we are having only what benefits us. So again, all of yoga, the whole of yoga, is simply creating this container of how we explore. So how do we then dissolve the anxiety of boredom into the peace of contentment? So let us come on up, or you're free to stay longer if you would like, or you're free to do any counter pose that you might enjoy or any other practice that's calling to you. If you would like to take a final shavasana, this would be the time to do that. So we'll lie down and make yourself comfortable, and we'll take some time and then close our practice. But please, anything else that is calling to you, this would be the time to do that as well. But it's nice to just let the body, have this energy that we've been working with, just have it sort of settle a bit and disperse so the chi is moving. So your choice though. Let's just take a moment to appreciate that your body breathes itself. No conscious effort, no remembering. The intelligence that allows this to happen is the same intelligence that maintains and sustains us. So we'll just take a moment to humbly appreciate that. And if you would like to stay in your Shavasana, be welcome to. If you'd like to sit up for a few moments and close, let's come on up. Touch the earth, honor the sky, and bless the water. And namaste.